Aloha. I just wanted to do a little review in the aftermath of the last live stream I was on with Bro Sanchez live. We were talking about the so-called flat earth community and this whole idea of unity and how in many cases, or from many different perspectives, the so-called flat earth community has become stagnant. Like, for whatever it is, obviously, because it's really just an idea. But if even you can still, conceptualize that idea and see that 3 years has pretty much been saying the same thing over and over again. That's my take on it. I can't speak for anybody else, but like when you hear certain flat earthers talking about us winning, like, winning what? Like, you have to have a goal. You have to have something, a core message in mind. There's nothing there. This shit is empty. It's just the same way as the term woke. Like, people are following labels, and the internet is it's the web that catches these labels, and then people forget that they're in a spider's web. They're in a web, and then they're just following around these labels, but they don't realize that they have to break out of that web. That's what I was saying, is that is the matrix. Like, we've seen 3 years of basically people just celebrating something that they discovered, that I've been saying for these entire 3 years, you haven't discovered shit. And that's the main problem. That's why shit has become so-called stagnant. Because nothing has been discovered. And as soon as you start to celebrate your illusory discovery, you create an entire atmosphere, an entire community, and that atmosphere, or that you personify that illusion, and that personified illusion is exactly the kind of magic that the mainstream media utilizes and uses. And when you have people who have no depth of understanding how deep this story is, the chess moves that are going on and have been going on, they are only going to be, their best case scenario is going to be limited to the lowest common scenario for the system. So this is why they will eat any little doggy treat, doo-doo crumbs, like a little documentary, and then boom, it's on Netflix. You dummies, you fucking dummies. They're fucking like, ooh, the numbers are what counts. Those old dopey ass motherfuckers talking about, oh yeah, the numbers. Look at you fucking scrounging for those little mainstream crumbs. And now look at it. Now twice over. This is how fucking ridiculous it is, because they following that dream, that empty ass illusory dream. As long as you keep playing in that world and you don't empower yourself and have some definitions of what you're really talking about. There ain't no definitions here. It's a bunch of people talking about they woke. That's what this shit is. Oh, we're woke. What the fuck does that even mean? There is no like this. Like, I've heard some things over the years. So I don't know if it's her. I might be she might be mistaking her for somebody else. Her name sounds familiar, but I think she was in that Patricia circle at one point or another. I can't speak for now. I really don't care. But the point is, this is a good example of empties, like empty definitions that have no they have no direction. They have no kinetic energy. Yeah, it's a lot of potential energy, because you are, this is what I said even in the video last night. You have opened the door. There's a whole bunch of fucking doors that are open, but is anybody walking through them? Has anybody Like you can burn doors down, you can kick them down with your boots, you can do all kinds of shit, and you'll look cool doing it. Great job exposing the doors. Did you walk through the doors? You can't just say you walked through the doors because you kicked them down. People, that's what people can do on the internet because it looks like you walked through the doors just because you got the internet as a buffer between you and the people that you're talking to. So these doors are all kicked down. That's why I said in that live stream last night, my emphasis was focusing on focusing on the staleness of the term flat Earth. I mean, it was stale from the get-go. It was already dead upon arrival because it's you're using you're using an already dead system, so you're starting out on level backwards. that was already so from the beginning. So people who are all like claiming like trying to celebrate or figure out who was first, like Mark Sargent or Eric DeBay, who was the first person that ever. Well, the first people that are exposed, those are the ones I'm actually talking about. Like that is an actual limitation. I can see the benefit of using it so people, it kind of shock value and all that other stuff, but that's just lazy at the same time. It's lazy. I mean, if you like now, if we were to get a whole group of people together right now and we were starting over, like 3 or 4 years of flat Earth never existed and we're starting over, would we use the term flat Earth after what we know now? I wouldn't. Hell no. I know other people wouldn't either. So that's the whole point. Now that you know that you wouldn't, now that you know that you wouldn't, that's entertaining. Anyway, now that you know that you wouldn't, what would you do in as far as expanding the consciousness of what you're talking about? Integrate in the last 3 years into evolving if you're going to use any kind of labels, at least evolve the labels. Don't just use the same stale ass shit. You could be saying the same stale ass shit for the next 3 or 4, 5 more years. Now what? If you ain't put no oomph in your core, it ain't gonna mess. You can make as much content as you want. It ain't gonna matter if ain't nothing there that's gonna be of any value to the individual that is going to utilize that information. There is a tendency to get into an echo chamber of just like celebrating being on the fringe of things. That's a real thing. People, this is a very easy side effect easy to understand side effect to the YouTube psychology or consciousness, that whole interaction with, people. So, another thing is people don't really recognize and acknowledge the side effects to this, like the depths of that. So even like our relationship with the spirit, like that's the in my opinion, one of, if not the most biggest like injustices to the entire realm. Like there's a spirit in everything, and we've literally been psychologically warfared out of that relationship to the essence of who and what we are. So like when you have loved ones who passed on, that you can see their spirit or their soul was once, active in a vehicle of some sort, this body, and then now, they're off doing something else. But that there's something special about a soul, like each individual that has that soul, because there are carbon copies that are out there, just like filler, and you've seen filler space. Not saying as a judgment thing, I'm just saying as like an observation of just an observation of and see, this is another part of the conversation that a lot of people don't want to get into, because this whole looseness of, like, the term woke is the same looseness of the term unity. That's the whole thing. I have an issue with unify around what, and who are we unifying with, and against who, and against what. These are all the terms that you need to have solidified in some kind of way when you talk about unity and all this other shit. But that ain't never been discussed to like the until last night. That's the only time that I've heard that kind of discussion amongst, like, people in the so-called flat earth community get into that, as far as, like, so now I lost my train of thought. Okay, yeah, woke, terms, language, definitions, core. Okay, so core. Yeah, there's no values there. It's just a bunch of, like, if I'm, like, being very general, it's just a bunch of people, you know, being cool. Like, we have, you know, some intelligent people who, you know, have, for the most part, good intentions, but not, you know, a lot of people really go to the depths of how, you know, fucked up the situation is. Like, you can see, you know, some people watch the local news and then they don't want to watch it anymore because they know it's a program. And that is a program. So, but you can see the kind of the frequency of person that, you know, is starting that transition. You can see that there's, like, a category, like a like a phase of people at that space. And then another category would be, you know, people who are seeing, let's see, maybe, what's a good example? So that's basic, like, local news. Now you get into conspiracy theories, or like 9/11 or something like that. See, that's another kind of, like, frequency of observing your reality. Now you sprinkle in, you know, heliocentrism, and that's when, you know, things start to click a little differently, because now you're questioning, you're tapping into, you've opened a door that is a direct relationship between you and this realm. So you when you have that deeper connection to what this realm is about, then you also have a deeper realization of who and what you are. So it's kind of like in land navigation in the military, when you're trying to find your location, you shoot a back azimuth. So a back azimuth is that you're standing in one point and you can see, like, a water tower, you know, off to your left, however many yards out, and then off to the right you can see, like, a mountain or some big kind of, like, statue or something like that. So you shoot with your compass an angle, and then you write that you draw it on the map, and then you shoot the same thing for the other direction for the water tower, and you draw a line back to the same direction on the map, and then where that intersects, that's where you are. And then if you do another one, it makes you even more accurate to where you are. So when you're breaking down all of these information nuggets and installing, like, these little crystals into your like reality, so you can understand how crystals work, or how, you know, even people are crystals too. So some people drain the fuck out of you, and then other people are actively, like, like energize you, or anytime you're around them, you know, you can feel some kind of charge of some sort. So the same thing goes for consciousness. So different realizations and tappings intos of this realm activate more of who and what you are. So when you make that your job, like when you make that your reality as like a responsibility, when you tap that in, then you start tapping into deeper parts of like processing and perspectives and so on and so forth. And imagination gets deeper. Then you start tapping into precision and focus and all kinds of stuff. But just kind of just rambling on that point. What are they trying to get back to? The core. Okay, so right now, after, like, you can see, it's getting easier to see that the same way you can shoot a back azimuth, you can now use the same thing for like years. For time. So time has passed. So individuals can be seen as, or channels, YouTube channels can be seen as locators on a map. And you can shoot like a direction, like a compass, like and see what angle, like, and based upon the time spent on some, like, haven't said anything about any kind of information that's really near and dear to like who and what you are. And in fact, a lot of people in the so-called truther community still dismiss a lot of the truth. Like, they dismiss who, like, the depths of your deepest truth. And a lot of that shit is hidden by this fluffy sort of talk, like being awake and just plain old unify. Like I said, unify around what? Unify with who? Unify against what? All these things need to be spoken and, like, at least conversated about, like, discussed. But right now, what's acceptable in this commercial sort of, just like, what is it? Like YouTube. It's just like a TV show. It's like, it's just about creating content, but to what end? Like, to what end? Like, some people already know that, like, obviously YouTube / Google / the government is full of shit. So you're using their platform. So the best thing to do is just to use it against them to the best. Obviously, you can argue like, oh, you're doing this and da 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 da. But point is, you're not gonna get any kind of. You're not going to get any kind of, what's the word? Back to the whole phrase of, you're not going to be able to address the expand outside of the amount of consciousness that created the problem in the first place. So, like, if you're using this, you have to use it only for, a little piece of something. But the essence of, what you're doing and what you're about needs to be deeper. It needs to be rooted in the soil, in the earth, deeper than the system that you're approaching. And you can only do that by putting in the work, by doing the research, by having the experience, by all of these things, not one or the other, all of these things put together. It's an amplifying of all of the frequencies that make up who and what you are within this experience. That it's like tuning an instrument. You have to tune your consciousness. And that's why I said I stray away from those labels and all that other stuff, because that's a very generalized, it's like, that's what it is. It's auto-tune for your consciousness. Anybody, yeah, it sounds good, but it's fucking, like, why would you just be a regular ass pre-chosen, like, the whatever pre-chosen sound effects on your graphic equalizer or your like your sound equalizer. Why the fuck would you choose the presets? That's what labels are, and all that basic unity talk and all that, just like empty sort of I'm woke. Get the fuck out of here with all that. That's that empty ass preset pre-channels that mainstream consciousness. Basically, it's a mainstream pre-channel, and like I said, everything has its purpose. I understand that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. All these different, parts of the storyline help us get to a certain point. I understand that. But when you are talking about, why things are, specifically why, like, certain movements or communities, run dry or seem stagnant or whatever, then you have to analyze what you're really looking at, what you're really talking about. Because like you can cheerlead for words that sound cool forever, and you'll have a huge following because people really need that. People need positivity in this fucking broken down ass, everyday ass, like sort of constricting reality. This is why it's such a really important responsibility to like empower yourself to or work out enough to, like, spiritually work out enough to be able to surf those waves, those rogue waves or those heavy ass waves or those intense weather storms that come in and out of nowhere, especially in this chaotic world. Once you make it a responsibility, it really does change things, and that's what I'm saying. That micro world does affect the macro world, and once you take that into the macro perspective and start analyzing like what's going on and integrating that into your micro expression, then that's when you can start doing some really like surfing some really intense waves and shaking some things up that you wouldn't be able to do if you were just always sitting around choosing the preset channels or the what are those, like the ringtones, like listen to the old school ringtones on your old phone. Like imagine that, imagine an entire population having their best music is like the ringtones from like a Nokia from 1998 or something like that. Like some shit like that's their definition of music. It's basically what we're talking about when we use these broke ass terms like awake and woke, and it's just empty. We can do a lot better. That's my whole point. I'm not trying to come down on anybody in particular. I'm just speaking, basically just repeating what I said in the live stream last night. I'll link it in this description. I was in the last 2 hours, but I think I'm gonna close this out and get some rest because this is. Yeah, I just wanted to share that because that's where I'm coming from in reference to this whole online community or whatever. Like, this is YouTube. Like, this is some YouTube. It's always been some YouTube shit. Like, for me, always. This is one little piece of everything. Like the majority of my work is like every day, like every other hour that I'm not on like creating content, like I'm working, like I'm like internally, externally, like in a 360-degree like version of myself, like how I've been seeing things that I would like to work on a regular basis. Yeah, I'm keeping track of that like a teacher and a student. You have like a teacher-student relationship with yourself, and that's how I have. That's why I said that. That's why I don't really conform or really want to be a part of any kind of like any so-called movements or communities or unity right now. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't really, and I don't even have to justify that statement. People are not really ready right now. People are not for any kind of unity or anything. That's first and foremost. I don't think people are ready for that. If you had unity right now, it'd be fucking chaotic. It'd be unity. That's why I say unity around what. So they're around what, or whatever kind of unity around what right now. It would be fucking weak as shit. It'd be some like Bernie Sanders shit. It's like, yeah, unity. That's like basically some like the conspiracy theory version of Bernie Sanders. Like up the frequency, turn the equalizer up from Bernie Sanders to what, Alex Jones, and then what now David Icke. Ooh, like, oh, now what flat Earth? Oh wow, we're talking about some serious frequencies. We're super duper mega ultra woke now. Uh-oh, the system's about to go. What? Then what? That's the whole point. Then what? So break all these terms, throw all these fucking labels out. If you talk about I'm woke, enlightened, awake, even flat Earth, like I said, that shit's been stale. It's been dead. It was starting out on a broken foot. As soon as you use it, that's why I said from the get-go, that was the first thing that I realized. I was like, even using the terms flat earth when you have the information of the ancestors, which is much more of an important and more deeply rooted perspective to come from, because it automatically tunes into the so-called human story, or the the timeline story of the beings within this realm. So why the fuck are we just talking about flat earth? Why? Because that's the prepositioned bullshit that is automatically going to be put out there, and it's acceptable. It's the mainstream consciousness. That's what I was saying also in the video last night, was that it's just science. So what about the fucking science? Ultimately, when you put it on a big ass whiteboard, when you put flat earth on a whiteboard and you write all the shit down of like importance, this if you really get deep into it, the fucking science is damn near the last one that's really important. It doesn't fucking matter that, like, the curve of the earth, how does that matter to your fucking soul? Or the lack of curve, like, or the firmament, like all that, like the stars, the sun, the moon, how the fuck does that matter to your soul? You of this realm. See, because when you start asking that question, then you start coming from the perspective of, well, who the fuck are you? What is a soul? And then what is, see, that's a different kind of perspective, but it's also including the realm itself. See, when you have people who don't want to question, they don't want to go into that, largely because a lot of them don't have that foundation. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to trust. And they're to be completely honest, a lot of them are just comfortable in the system the way it is, and they really wouldn't want it to crash. A lot of people, even flat earthers, they don't want that. They can talk about the government for on 24-hour live streams for weeks, and they still wouldn't want this shit to crash. Ask them. Think I'm lying? Ask them. Ask these people. If it really comes down to it, what you really talking about? Are you going to, these are your creature comforts, this whole American dream shit? These motherfuckers are celebrating it. Look at Behind the Curve documentary. The Behind the Curve documentary, they went into their homes. Look at their homes. That shows, like, don't even look at the storyline. Look at the lack of seriousness. Literally, they realize that they have been, if this is real, they have been lied to their entire lives, and they're still hanging all that bullshit ass, like, belief system bullshit on their walls in their houses. Like, yeah, they've been put out there to be downplayed. They've been put out there to completely distract from the depths of what this, you know, what this realization is really about. Like when you break it really down, that's why I said, as far as the whole establishment and the power grid as a whole, a lot of them talk a lot of shit, but they ain't really about that shit. They they talk a lot of shit. They can share a lot of stuff on Facebook. They can share a lot of shit on Twitter and Instagram. They might even make a YouTube or two, a YouTube video or two. But when, you know, when you really get them in the conversation about what we're really talking about, like other people are really talking about, this is why these discussions aren't being made. This is why you have at least two different factions within the flat Earth community. You have the groupings of the whole like flat Earth core, along with the Mark and Patricia's, the Eric DeBay, and the Math Powerland, and that whole Netflix crew. Like, that's all one big group. And like, I don't give a fuck, you know, how, you know, separate, you know, they are. But I've been, you know, calling that shit for the last 3 years, and not a damn one of them has, you know, wiped that shit off. They just wearing it like it's a fucking trophy or some shit, like it's a merit badge or something. If they're on Netflix, they made them look like the fucking 7 dorks out there, like all loving this shit. Like, you just found out the whole government has been lying to you about your entire realm. How do you feel about it? Oh, look at my fucking cats. Look at my jukebox and my British flag guitar. The fuck? Get the fuck out of here, man. So, shit is ridiculous. That's the real tragedy in that whole thing is it's not that they, like, how specifically they made them look like dumb. It's how the entire conversation of so-called flat Earth has been downplayed. It's been downplayed by their characters. And this is what I've been saying for the last 3+ years now, is that the content of their characters is fucking empty. And that's exactly what the system wants. It wants empty, label filling, substanceless characters who will just, you know, spout off, who just want to say stuff out loud and not really discuss and get to the core issues of, like, the cancer. They just want to create more band-aids. Like, let's talk about band-aids. No, if we're going to discuss anything, let's discuss the cancer, what we're really going to, so we don't miss anything. You have to scrape all the cancer out. That's why before you move anything or move anywhere, you got to get your soldiers to figure out, and you got to figure out who's what. It's not even all about the soldiers. It's about, you know, different people are going to be doing different things. Like, even the term soldiers is very generalized, because how many different types of soldiers are there? How many different, they call them MOSs, which is just another term for job. So you have, like, chefs or cooks in the army, and then you have, like, psychologists, you have doctors of all kinds, you have infantry, tankers, all this other stuff. So, like, psychologically or consciously, these are all different, like, souls, and different are instruments. Soul instruments are people are more equipped to do different parts of that system. That's what I'm saying. Largely, for the most part, the individuals hadn't gotten even into tuning their instruments yet. So why the fuck would you start to play music without the individuals even understanding the instruments that they are? This is why you can't unify right now in that whole thing, because your instruments, they don't even know what instruments are, or that there's some music being played. They don't even know the rhythms yet. A lot of these people don't have the rhythm. That's just a fact. Some people they can't really comprehend the rhythm that you're talking about. And those are the people who only really, for the most part, because they can't really comprehend your rhythm, that means they've also, for largely a lot of them, have demonized your rhythm and are very much more comfortable with the mainstream rhythms, the prepackaged, preset channeled rhythms. That is where this whole artificial intelligence, that's where I've taken it a step even further into the artificial intelligence discussion with simulation theory and this transhumanism, this de-evolution program that is being amplified and emphasized within this realm, that pretty much integrates all of the alien storyline, the channeling new age storyline, transhumanism, simulation theory, even the Mandela effect, including flat earth. See, like, I've been talking about this is all one storyline. I've been integrating all those big ass topics for the last 4 or 5 years now. Like, it's been 5 years, 13. 14, yeah. Starting from scratch, starting from bare bones scratch, like my little phone MP3 player that had a little screen. The first thing I had a screen on, you can download apps. The first thing you can download apps, I got a little green screen app. And that was the first video. That was in 2013, I think. Yeah. Same storyline all the way, just got more and more complex. That's what I'm saying. Not to come down on people who are like, who like really love and need those labels and stuff like that. What I'm saying is that when you're getting into your groove, there's nothing like learning how to surf on your own. There's nothing like people who play music. There's no there's no other Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix is Jimi Hendrix. So everybody else has their own style. Everybody else is their own, kind of Jimi Hendrix for whatever kind of instrument that they are, that they play, that they experience as they want to. What I'm saying is that we have a lot of issues with deprogramming our pre-channeled bullshit messages from this system, and a lot of the people who are still comfortable with that system can't let go of those pre-channeled frequencies because they think they will be letting go of parts of themselves, and that's scary for people, and they don't want to change. They don't want to go into those depths. It's why people shy away from the so-called human story, which is, I don't use that term anymore. But this is the whole point. This is what I was explaining in that video. This is the disconnect between the whole like Netflix, that community, and then the community, like the Bro Sanchez community and all the other people who talk about, take it not just one step, like a few steps deeper and further. There's a whole bunch of channels in between, but there's a definite divide because like the people who speak about basically like very deep perspectives in the whole getting into the so-called human story and the realm and the people, that whole people on the other side of the community, they won't entertain that. The point is, like, we will gladly go on to their platforms and say whatever it is, but there's been a blockage of that discussion, and they have verbalized this. This is why I said it's so important in those videos that I mentioned Mark and Patricia in reference to them talking about the whole flat earth community, which is just another label, and him specifically saying, because he's telling hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people, he's telling these people this: when you talk to people, keep flat earth on the message. That is a statement of limitation. That's what I'm saying. What the fuck is the message? I would never tell anybody like that, like in reference, especially that, because it's so weak. It's like, it's still just, anyway. Point is, there's a whole bunch of different versions of that kind of tellings of people how to think and how to feel and how to perceive. So when he said that, and then I would say, what the fuck, man? Like, we need to, like, let's, before we say the message of flat earth is ... why don't we talk about it? And they're like, no, 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 this is the message. We are the ones who are in charge of the flat earth internet community, and we say what the message is. We are an example of the message. Watch, we will confirm that we are the example of the message. We'll do a documentary about it, and you dopey ass motherfuckers will look like fools on Netflix. That's exactly what happened. 3 years and 20 fucking seconds. Bullshit. Called bullshit 3 fucking years ago, and now this is why they're so silent about this. And like, they're still just playing the same old storyline. It's playing the same song over and over again, waiting for another mud floods, waiting for another trees, no forest on flat earth, waiting on another whatever fucking thing to pop up to distract from going deeper into your own responsibility yourself. That whole thing. I don't want to rant. I'm tired now. I just want to could go on and on and on, but I think that's long enough. Anyway, I just had to get that off my chest. So thank you for hanging out. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the support. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.